Ahoy everyone, it's Jeff, aka God the Scummer. Welcome back to another stream. What are we talking about today? Well, I'm talking about our old friends of Atheist Alliance International. I've talked about a couple of times before, but I've got a guest with me who probably has followed this story a little closer than I have. It's Preston. Welcome to the welcome to the stream.
Thank you, guys. Top riff there, by the way, in the intro.
Cheers,
I
mate.
was slightly.
I just realised in Preston, you look and sound an awful lot like John Hamill. You know, it's
A
really.
little
I
bit.
didn't never told you that.
It has been said before, once or twice.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think I mentioned to you on Twitter, Jeff, that this discussion might require a cask strength, so I'm cracking up the good stuff.
Okay. I've only got the Scottish stuff. I'm afraid I've got the single malt tonight, but
Fit for human consumption.
yeah. So
And, I was recently 50. I'm a very, very old man, Jeff, and Mrs. Hamill remains undefeated in the birthday presents.
oh, that's
I think
that's spot
we're
on.
strength single malt. What's the needle at? 58.5%. We
Oh,
might need
nice.
a percentage point of that.
Yeah, that's definitely stronger than the Jura single malt I'm drinking right now. So I got this for Christmas. So the little granite cubes you freeze just so you can have
Oh,
it
yeah,
so you can
excellent.
have a bit of ice without it diluting it.
Yeah, I might need the dilution given, given
Mm,
where the beer's at on this one, but
yeah, I got some beers as well for the time, and yeah, I definitely Martin Preston is a legend. Um, Preston is an absolute legend.
thank
he's,
you,
he's
Preston. So
I
we,
think
I remember going to a bar once where they had an Elvis impersonator on, and
mm,
I didn't realize that the done thing was that lots of the audience would turn up with the Elvis wigs and the glasses,
yeah,
and it was, all night it was just people walking past each other going, "Hi Elvis, hi Elvis,"
yeah. I think
and
yeah, I
that's
think Barry said it right. Yeah, come for the prez, stay for the ton. So, AAI. Now, John, you've been following this way before I have, and I'm
unfortunately,
quite amazed at how much you're able to sort of keep on top of this story because it's. I think Chesh said it best that AAI are like the definition of, but wait, there's more. And it's like
exactly.
every time I want to sort of do a stream on about them or something, and I'm trying to get a handle on the story, some more ridiculous shit comes out. But just I know without just too long didn't read reason what's been the issue with AAI going back to like 2017 and maybe explain out because you used to be obviously involved with the organization before it all went to fuck. So
Yes, I'll keep it brief. So I was the secretary of AAI for a number of years. I had that role because I was an officer of Atheist Ireland. Atheist Ireland was one of the affiliate member groups, and those member
mm,
groups put forward candidates to be directors. So I acted as secretary for a number of years until 2017, 2018, when a whole shit ton of corrupt things happened. And the organization was taken over by a small number of unelected individuals. They changed the bylaws to give themselves personal control of the organization. They took it away from the members. They gave themselves control of the bank account that had tens of thousands of dollars in it, which wasn't theirs. And they proceeded to act on behalf of the organization for several years thereafter without ever being voted even once by one affiliate group ever. So they, they, for example, made submissions to the United Nations as if they were representing dozens of atheist groups worldwide, but they were representative of absolutely nobody. They had no mandate, they had no authority, and they never received a single vote from a single atheist group worldwide. So as you say, Jeff, this thing has been rolling on. I kind of had a front row seat to the first takeover because I was one of kind of a recently left board member and then part of Atheist Ireland, who were one of the groups
Mm.
unlawfully expelled by the coup leaders. But since then, there's just been a rolling dumpster fire of corruption. Most of it has been notified by whistleblowers, actually.
Mm. Yeah.
So a lot of it has been attested to by people internally who tried to do the right thing, who tried to ask the right questions and do what they were supposed to do. They were told to fuck off. Actually, that's not a euphemism. One
That was
example,
literally, yeah, that was literal, and wasn't it? And that was,
Shirley Rivera, who is
yeah,
founder of the Atheists of Puerto Rico and the spokesperson for the collective group of, I believe, 9 different national atheist organizations across Latin America. So she was a director of the organization, heard all the stories about wrongdoing relating to the funds, asked the treasurer and the president some questions about the bookkeeping, and she was told that's not your fucking job, in exactly those words. Uh, the irony being, it's not only the job of a director, it's the duty and
yeah.
obligation of the director to inform themselves about those things. So this whole thing has rumbled on and on. Throughout.
I'm not gonna say I don't know Shirley, but I've seen enough of her to know that's not someone I'd want to make an enemy of. I've got to be honest.
Exactly that. They told the
Yeah.
wrong person to fuck off,
Mm.
because Shirley is not to be trifled with.
No,
Um,
definitely not.
so,
As Barry says, the Shirlinator.
exactly that.
Uh,
So most recently, they have published what they call a disclosure document. So from 2018 through to 2022, they at all times responded to criticism by insisting that they fully adhered to all bylaws on a very strict and diligent basis, and that anyone who was making allegations to the contrary were awful, mendacious liars and trolls who shouldn't be listened to. And then at the end of last year, I believe November, maybe December, they published what they called a disclosure document. And in the disclosure
mm,
document, they admitted that the critics had been right all along. They admitted that they were never elected. They admitted that they didn't change the bylaws properly. They admitted that they didn't keep financial records. They didn't arrange general meetings. They didn't publish financial accounts. Everything that was alleged, they essentially admitted in this disclosure document. And last week, they had an emergency meeting to discuss this document. And I guess that what has precipitated our discussion today, Jeff.
yeah, yes, I guess so. And I want to say with this disclosure document, and even still though, it was a partial admission of a lot of things that we know there's a lot more to.
Mm-hmm.
And they deny. I mean, they denied shit on a lot of other stuff. They're denying that nothing to see here, and they're just trying to. I mean, they're more trying to pass this off as yes, we made some mistakes, but we're not corrupt or anything like that. Although they interestingly admitted that one of their directors, who bear in mind they're all supposed to be volunteers, we found out was getting paid by the organisation at the time. He's no longer he's no longer on the boards, to be fair. But hey John Richards, how are you?
Yes, that's true. They published this disclosure document, which came with a proviso that this is published in the spirit of full disclosure. Nothing is hidden. No spin, no deception. Everything is on the table. Those are kind of quotes from how they published the document. But the
Yeah,
document itself was full of more lies, and then they've refused to answer any questions following that. So just to give you an example of the kind of lies that are in the disclosure document, their excuse for all of the corruption when they took over the organization without election or mandate or authority, their excuse for doing that was that there was a crisis in the membership numbers, and there were almost nearly no affiliate groups left, and they had to do something. And they published a graph, and the graph showed the membership numbers roughly going from around 50 down to single figures between 2014 and 2017. What they perhaps did not realize was that I was on the board during that period. I have all the membership reports. So I created the correct sequence of membership numbers from the contemporaneous documents, from the reports that the membership director brought to the board, from the annual reports that the board published to the members. Here's the number of members in each year. And it's perfectly obvious they just made up the graph. I mean, at no point does it accord with reality in any way. I likened it to you remember that time Trump had the diagram of the hurricane and he got the Sharpie out and just drew
Oh
a big.
yeah.
It was just like that. I mean,
It's like that,
they
yeah.
Sharpie and drew a line. And of course, they've been asked many times, can you give us the source of the data for your graph? And they won't tell anyone. Is my mic a bit ropey? Let me try and fix that.
Just one or two people saying, "Oh, your mic sounds like it's a bit low or something, like it's not that clear." I mean, I can hear you quite just fine, but some people are.
I bet that's better.
Oh, that sounded different.
Yeah, I think that's better. Apologies, that was my fault.
Okay, that sounds a lot better, actually. I mean, I'm on a very cheap microphone, so I can't sort of say too much. So, but I was going to say, John's mic sounds awful. Preston sounds fine. So we'll have to talk. We'll have to. Yeah,
we'll have to explain that reference.
We're gonna have to explain this. Well, yeah, I did see the name on this with this EGM. Now I've got to bring this up because we got some there's like a slideshow presentation of what their whole agenda that you can get on their website. So this, and if I bring that up now, so there we are. We get to the web. This is like this slideshow presentation thing that they're doing, going through all each part of the meeting. So now Lawrence Krauss. Now, what exactly is he doing here? He's the facilitator of this meeting. So essentially, he was chairing it, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
Yeah. Explain. He's on their advisory council? Is that correct?
That's correct. I have to say, when I was there, we didn't have an advisory council. I mean, we were doing things like making submissions to the UN, attending conferences. I don't know about anyone else. If I want to attend a conference and sit at a table and explain to people what the group's about, I do not require advice from Lawrence Krauss to figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly what advice these people are giving to AAI. My suspicion is this is just a mutual reach around, Jeff. The folks at AAI feel better with a few celebrity photos on their website. Lawrence Krauss feels better when he gets his ego stroked.
Yeah. I got to say, I'm quite disappointed with Krauss throughout a lot of this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very disappointed.
I would have a less generous adjective than disappointed, I have to say. But anyway,
it's that's putting it mildly. Because I think when I had one of my little rants about AAI when they lost their Council of Europe status, I was on the advisory council of this organization. I'd be asking fucking questions about how this has happened.
Yep.
So because that was. So if we go for the introductions here, these all of the current members.
That's right.
Are these? I don't. I'm assuming everyone. I don't know if everyone was here at this things. With this, every one of these groups. I know. I know Randolph was in there.
Yes.
I know Progressive Atheists were there. Atheist UK. Well, that's John Richards, so we know he'd have been there. But
He
we got.
sent his
Yeah.
mini me.
Oh, okay.
Someone will say in the comments who was there from Atheism UK. It was Rad somebody. Is that right?
I don't. You know.
I think.
John Richards is literally the only person from that organisation I know. So. And we got, but you know, so we got the instructions number of the board directors. Who didn't Brian Kernick, who I've never had any interaction with ever. But I come to find out he's blocked me on Twitter. So
Good man, Preston.
yeah,
Preston reports there. It was Rod Doherty. He's
yeah,
he's pre-blocked you, Jeff.
yeah. But I found out he's blocked a load of us.
Good grief.
It must be just because you tagged me in that thread. I don't know. But yeah, I've never talked. I've never talked to the guy once, so I found out I'm blocked. I must be getting in the way of AAI's mission of saving atheists, because
Exactly.
apparently we just want atheists to die. So
That's what we're constantly told. And
yes,
the big name here, of course, on the right hand side is Preston Jensen. So
yeah,
I have to explain that reference. So when AAI published the disclosure document, they invited questions from members, and they explicitly said, here's the chat board, the internal members chat board. If any members have anything at all to ask, please ask the questions here. Nothing will be hidden, everything will be answered. And someone called Preston Jensen promptly became a member of AAI and asked a bunch of questions which have yet to be answered. And Preston Jensen actually turned up at the EGM. He was an observer. You can see here on his designation is that O15. So DN is a board director, a delegate from the board. A is an advisory council member. O is an observer. Observers are supposed to be allowed to speak. So Preston Jensen wasn't representing an atheist group, like say Atheism UK. So he wasn't allowed to speak, but he was allowed to enter comments in the chat and listen. That was the rules of the meeting. So the first thing that the board did when they began the meeting was ask Preston Jensen to turn his camera on. Turned out Preston didn't have a camera, Jeff, so
that's
bummer.
unlucky. That's
Weren't allowed to see Preston during the meeting. Although later on in the meeting, one of the board members, who you can see down here, called Tanoi Emroz Alam, expressed some frustration that Preston had been asking questions, which was kind of weird on account of his board explicitly invited the questions. But they said this person's membership subscription has been paid by a known critic of AAI. So whoever's name was on the credit card that paid Preston Jensen's subscription to the organization, the name was not Preston Jensen, but somehow Tanoi knew the name. So why the board of AAI are passing credit card details of their individual members around the board, I don't know.
Sounds suspect there right away. That sounds really suspect.
Yes.
Right.
You folks aren't in the EU anymore, so you don't have to worry about GDPR, I don't think. But
Don't think so.
anyone who worries about GDPR would take a look at that and think, what the fuck is going on? And how come people on the board know this guy's credit card details? One more wrinkle, if you wouldn't mind going back up there a small bit to the meeting, the four pictures. What were they called? Vote counters, or
there's the one. Voting managers.
Voting managers. Okay, so the guy on the top left there, Amir Naveed. You can see he has an O in front of his name as well. He's an observer. he wasn't allowed to speak during the meeting. His job was to count the votes. But unfortunately, our gallant facilitator let Amir speak freely, and in fact to chime in quite aggressively on the debate on quite a few votes. So Preston wasn't allowed to do that. If you want to chime in to have a go at the critics, that's perfectly fine. But if you want to criticise the board as an observer, you weren't allowed to speak. And Amir just offered the most absolutely comical attack on Michael Nugent you can imagine. This won't take long, Jeff, but you might get a giggle out of this. So you possibly know Michael Nugent. He's the chair of Atheist Ireland.
Yeah, I don't think I know him personally, but I know who he is and what he's.
Yeah.
So
Michael's also a vegan. He cooked a fuck ton of soya beans. This is something that vegans do, I'm understanding. And he had it all laid out in these containers to freeze a bunch of it and everything else. Okay. So he tweeted this thing of this huge volume of soybeans that he'd cooked. And I responded and called him a prepper. For anyone who doesn't know, preppers are typically in America who have a bunker full of tinned food waiting for the apocalypse or some kind of Armageddon to come. So Michael responded to say, I'll be all right once AAI collapses. The joke being AAI are saving atheist lives. And if AAI collapses, then all us atheists will need to be preppers in a bunker somewhere.
So I'm assuming this is something that is quite clearly a joke that he's managed to take at face value.
Precisely. It's a Twitter thread about fucking soybeans. And Amir has reported this in extremely dramatic terms. Michael Nugent wants AAI to collapse. And I was going, this can't be serious. This must be a joke. But the whole rest of the meeting was about AAI defending themselves against these awful people who want AAI to collapse. And, you just want to shake people and say, he was talking soybeans, you dick. But on one level, they knew they were misrepresenting Michael.
Oh, sure, of course they did. But yeah, it was Martin put there. Michael Nugent is in the UN in Geneva this week to represent atheists on behalf of Atheist Ireland. Do you think AAI are there? I'm going to say probably not. But,
absolutely not. That's a UN session about the rights of the child, which include the right to an education without being indoctrinated in somebody else's religion. So, yes, Michael and Jane from Atheist Ireland are off lobbying the human rights lawyers.
As I said before, because this, I know Barry says this quite a lot. Their AAL's UN status is their one superpower.
Yes.
That's they're the only organisation of their type representing all these different atheist groups that have got this. And I seriously think it's hanging by a thread now with the way they've been behaving.
Yeah, I think what's keeping them in there is that there's an enormous backlog of verifications that they have to do. I suspect something to do with COVID. But the way the UN works is all of the NGOs have to submit a quadrennial report. And that quadrennial report asks a bunch of questions about what have you been up to. The quadrennial report submitted by AAI was really quite dishonest. But yeah, it remains to be seen what will happen when someone takes a look at that report and tries to figure out if this is true or not. Because
the groups that are given this status, do have to be democratic in nature.
Yes.
I mind, which is a point I know you tried to explain to Tercia de Plessis that it was obviously lost upon her.
I tried to explain why AAI had lost its democratic legitimacy, and I think I'm right in saying her view was, why would you want to be democratic anyway?
Yeah. Yeah, benevolent, enlightened dictators is what we need. Yeah,
Yes,
and you did.
Tertia is a South African who believes the problems in South Africa are too much democracy for the ANC. I think that was how she expressed it.
Yeah, I can read into that how you will, but it's So, who's here? Delegates, advisory board members, everyone's. How long will the EGM last? Approximately 3 hours. It was about 4.5. I understand.
It was indeed. Yes, it was indeed.
I will assure you, our stream is not going to last that long tonight. I'm going to assure you. It's not going to go anywhere near. It's not going to go to 3 hours, let alone 4.5. I'm going to assure you of that. So we got proxy voting. 5 affiliate members who cannot be here have chosen someone to vote on their behalf.
That's super weird the way they did that. Like I've seen proxy votes before where you read a motion, you can't make it to the meeting, and you provide your proxy in advance to say, our organization would like to vote the following way on the following motion. But the way they did it was they just got a bunch of groups to give their proxies to Bill, meaning it doesn't matter what motion comes up or what amendments propose, Bill will decide on behalf of us in advance.
This is Bill Flaveldi, the current secretary.
That's right. Yeah. So he was able to. People were able to give their proxies to Bill, even though they didn't know what the vote would be or what way Bill was going to vote. So I've never seen proxy votes used like that before, but okay.
Yeah, now for anyone who's not familiar with Bill Flavel, go and check out my little rant about his renunciation certificate idea.
Oh, good grief!
Yeah, I had quite a lot to say on that, and it was not flattering. So obviously the formats that discuss it, motions and amendments. And this is what I found weird. Amendments are allowed. Like, who the hell does this during a meeting?
Well, I can tell you the way it used to be. The way it used to be was there was a pretty strict timetable. You had to have a motion submitted to the secretary 12 weeks before the meeting. The secretary would gather up all of the motions and circulate them to the members 8 weeks before the meeting. Then 6 weeks before the meeting, you had to submit any amendments. And then 4 weeks before the meeting, all of the motions and all of the amendments would be circulated to everyone. But in this meeting,
standard practice for any organisation. I mean, like I said, I've not served on a board or anything, but I've been a delegate to a political parties conference on 2 or 3 occasions. I've been a delegate to a trade union conference. I've run AGMs like for a motorcycle lobbying group that I used to be a member of. This was pretty much standard that there was a set period of time where all motions and amendments are put in before the meeting within a certain time frame, and they're voted on at the meeting. But you don't just say, oh, I'd like to, during the course of the meeting, I'd like to change this motion.
So in this meeting, people would shout out motions and shout out amendments and then call for a vote on that. And, someone else asks, well, what are we voting on? Can you write this down? And Lawrence Krauss, as facilitator, would try to repeat it. And then the guy who proposed it was saying, well, not quite. And someone else says, well, what do you mean by that? And there's people in the chat saying, I don't understand what we're voting on. And on it goes. It was just a total dumpster fire, start to finish.
It's just, well, this is what I mean. This is what when I was sort of hearing this, it's like, look, I used to run AGMs for my local motorcycle action group, and believe me, I can assure you, That's pretty darn informal most of the time. That's pretty
Mm-hmm.
damn informal. But when it comes to AGMs, that sort of thing. Yes, we had rules and structures, and I can tell you now, we were as informal as fuck. A group of bikers, we wouldn't have run anything this fucking disorganized.
And the extra bit of topspin on that, Jeff, is this is an international organization,
Yeah,
and there were people attending the meeting who didn't speak English, so that they were told in advance, "Here's the motions. Go and put them into Google Translate." I mean,
oh,
using Google Translate for the motions is one
shit.
thing, but how does that work when you don't speak English? You're attending the meeting, and people are shouting
Right.
out amendments.
I'm just going to put myself full screen for a moment, just so people can see how I'm reacting. Yeah, this is the fuck. The fuck.
Yes, it's if I can
This is an
inherit from
organisation that's got
the
recognition at the
poster
United
behind you,
Nations.
Jeff.
Yeah,
8-year-olds, dude. 8-year-olds.
8-year-olds. Yeah, exactly. Oh, this is supposedly an organisation with international, like the UN's state. This is. I think I definitely chose the right thumbnail. A fucking clown car. Yeah.
How's your whiskey, man? Mine's good.
Yeah, I'm sort of on the beer now. I've pretty much got through. Well, unless I want to crack open Jack Daniels, but I feel like
Mm,
so cheap at drinking Jack Daniels when you're drinking the good stuff,
beer's good.
Mm. Late motions are allowed.
Which basically
Again,
means just shout out. Like if you
yeah,
read the bylaws, the current bylaws that the current crowd have introduced will say all motions must be submitted certain number of weeks beforehand, but they just ignore that and carry on and let people shout out motions.
it's like, yeah, we like the bylaws until they apply to us, then we'll
Exactly.
change them appropriately.
Exactly. I mean, honestly, you wonder why they bother with the bylaws because they just don't feel constrained by them in any way. Here's the meat now, man. Here's the
Here's
meat.
guess where we get to the interesting, the disclosure document. The disclosure document acknowledged 9 errors. 5 were of little consequence. Now, I beg to differ with this. Okay, number 1, non-compliant notifications to the 2018 AGM. Legitimacy of voting at the 2018 AGM. Were attendees at the 2018 AGM selected? Too many powers taken from the members in 2018. Yeah, this is of little consequence.
So
Returning,
the powers that were
yeah,
taken from the members were no longer allowed to vote in the directors. The members were no longer allowed to change the bylaws. The members were no longer allowed to see the financial accounts. So as a member, you pay your subscription in, like it's your fucking money going into the
yeah.
account, but they wouldn't let anyone know what they were spending the money on. So they cancelled all AGMs, they cancelled all elections, they cancelled all financial reporting, and they just said, "Yeah, okay, us small number of individuals, unelected individuals on the board, we now run this show, and that's the end of it." And they've described this as too many powers taken from the members.
Yeah,
But by the way,
yeah. Do you
non-compliant
think? Yeah,
notifications. What that means is the majority of the members weren't told that there was a vote.
yeah. And then the final one, returning officer counted his own votes in
That's right.
2021. The fuck?
So
This
the,
this is
that
this
was
is this is what
that
they call minor errors.
that was a guy called Fotis, who is still I think he's now the treasurer. Was then the secretary.
Oh, it's
Um,
just the guy from Greece who got kicked out of his own country's
he
organisation.
he was expelled from the Atheist Union of Greece over a financial issue, and he's now the treasurer of AAI.
That
Uh,
sounds just like the sort of guy you want to have as your treasurer, someone who was kicked out of another organisation for financial
yes,
irregularities. Yeah,
when he was secretary, he was running the so-called vote for new directors in 2021. So the process that he described was, if you wanted to be secretary, you would have to run against the incumbent, who was Fotis. And the process is, everyone sends their votes to Fotis. Fotis counts the votes, and then Fotis announces that Fotis won.
This reminds me about there was the story there was there was actual elections that took place in the Soviet Union in like 1948 or something, and of course all they all got 98.6% of the vote. Stalin got 140% of the vote. And they explained that away by saying the people loved him so much that everyone from the neighbouring constituencies came to vote for him.
Do you know what it'd be like? It would be like if in the last American presidential election,
Yeah.
Trump had said, listen, we're not going to bother with this whole polling stations and secret ballot things. Everyone just send your votes into the White House. We'll count them here, and then we'll announce the result. And this is what Bill describes as a matter of little consequence.
Yeah. So okay. So these are the minor errors of little consequence. This is the serious thing. 4 were serious. No AGM in 2017.
This is just so dishonest. Can I give you just a quick vignette to describe how dishonest this is? So, firstly, these are described as errors. Like, they're not errors. Like, this was done deliberately. But let's take the last one: delays preparing annual accounts for 2017 to 2019. So 3 years. Those 3 years inclusive. What actually happened was, and this isn't an allegation, this is what has been admitted in the disclosure document. They just didn't keep financial records. They didn't keep adequate financial records at all. During this period, what we do know is that Bill Flavelle, the person who's providing this report, so what we're reading about here, what we were listening here, is Bill Flavelle has completed an investigation into the actions of Bill Flavelle, and now Bill Flavelle is reporting the results of Bill Flavelle's actions.
And so, apparently Bill Flavelle has found that Bill Flavelle was innocent.
Imagine that. Yeah. So they didn't retain financial records throughout these 3 years. What we do know they did was that they awarded a contract to Bill Flavelle's daughter without tender.
Oh, yeah.
They took a contract off our friend Rustam in India and awarded it to John Richards, awarded it to themselves. They never
was disgusting. I mean,
it was disgusting.
I talked about that on. I talked about that on my channel before, and I think when I was on with Chris, Atheist Pastor, I talked with him about this, and John Richards' attitude that $6,000 or whatever it was he's being paid is too much to pay someone in India, and I'm like, so John, did you get like the memo about the British Empire? Yeah, did you get the kind of memo that?
His solution to that problem was just to pay the money to himself instead.
and then so John suddenly then John Richards, of course, then starts saying that Rustam wasn't very good at his job and whatever. Obviously, thinking Rustam wasn't going to say anything. And Chesh, thank you, bringing Rustam on. That was
good work, Chesh.
That was beautiful.
Great get.
Yeah, that was.
So when John Richards paid a bunch of AAI money to himself, when Bill Flavelle paid a bunch of AAI money to his daughter, that wasn't an error. It wasn't an accident that the money ended up in Bill's daughter's bank account. That was entirely deliberate. But the next thing you might ask, Jeff, is, well, okay, where did all the rest of the money go? And if you read the disclosure document, the word they use is inferred. So what they've done is essentially imagined. They've looked at how much money went out. They've no records of what it went out to, or who to, what for. They just didn't keep financial records. So what they've done is they have, in their words, inferred what those expenses were incurred for, and it's basically just their imaginings. So for those 3 years where financial accounts were missing, they just made them up. They just imagined what the financial accounts might be, imagined what the expenses might be, and in their word, inferred them. Now,
Yeah.
if you if what you have done is fail to keep any financial records, make up a bunch of shit and call it your annual accounts, and then you turn up to give a presentation to the members and you describe that situation as the financial accounts were delayed. They fucking weren't delayed, Bill. They were made up.
Look, a delay is like a couple of months, not two and a half fucking years.
Yes, and even if it's delayed by 2.5 years, if you then 2.5 years later present your accounts, what you would expect to see is a list of line items of expenditures. Here's what we spent the money on, and here's why. But they didn't have that. They like if if you want to take a look at the situation and say, well, two of the payments that we know about were fucking dodgy. So I tell you what, lads, you better make a list of the other payments and be able to explain where the money went. They can't do that. They're just making it up.
I like this other one about co-opted directors not elected at the 2018 AGM. Like, do you think?
Oh, that was comedy gold as well. So, Bill was the guy presenting this. Bill also the guy who was not elected at the AGM. So Bill was one of the guys who acted on behalf of AAI for years without receiving a vote from anyone. And he was here presenting the results of Bill's investigation into the actions of Bill. And if you could listen to his presentation, he mentioned point one, he mentioned point two, and then he went straight to point four.
I noticed that as well. I when I listened through, because Preston Jensen actually, I've been in contact with him. He was very kind enough to send me a clip of Bill Flavelle at this. So thank you, Preston.
Good job, Preston.
Yeah. So yes, I did notice this that though that he's like he was reading out his PowerPoint for strangely the third one he didn't mention.
Just skipped right over it and went straight to the fourth.
Yeah. But okay, but then now the EGM must decide how to put things right. So he seriously showed this as a fucking slide at this EGM.
Yes. And if I can just answer
Fucking
Preston in the
kidding me.
comments there. Since you're in the UK, Jeff, Atheism UK did comment on that slide of the 5 minor and 4 less minor, 4 not serious errors. Anyway, Rod Doherty, on behalf of Atheism UK, commented on that saying, whatever's happened and whatever's been wrong, it's not been that serious.
John Richards must have fed him that one.
Quite right.
Yeah.
Quite right.
That just sounds like something John Richards would say.
Doesn't it?
But
yes, he did present that in the meeting.
But so this is what do we do here? Sanctions, compensation, repairs. He's serious. He seriously presented this as a fucking slide here. This EGM.
Yes, and
it's fucking unreal.
The I mean the next steps are pretty obvious. So as I said, they passed these entirely anti-democratic set of new bylaws, which gave themselves all of the power and took all of the control away from the members. They
Mm.
didn't do that according to the correct process. They didn't. They didn't allow all the members to vote. They allowed some members to vote that they weren't entitled to vote. If you look at the delta between them, it was more than enough to change the outcome. So if you arrange a vote and a bunch of the electorate is improperly excluded, and a bunch of people cast votes that aren't allowed to cast votes, then the next step's obvious to say, okay, that wasn't a valid vote. We must arrange another vote. Uh, but
Mm.
no, Bill's response is just carry on regardless.
Yeah, and this is the thing. Like, I mean, so sanctions. Obviously, you could say, well, the sanction would be you kick the board out. Okay, compensation. How do you how do you financially compensate people for this shit? Honestly, what would even be the point?
Yeah, no one has asked them for money.
But I mean, repairs. Okay, we all agree. Yeah, we all agree. I think we all agree we want to see this organisation repaired. I think where I might differ, and I'm sure where you would differ from the like Bill Flavell is this
Mm.
organisation is not going to be repaired with this current fucking board around.
Yeah, I think the problem is the current board do not have a legitimate mandate.
No.
So we should have an election for a legitimate board. If some of the current people want to put their names forward and
Yeah,
argue why, then fine, let them do that.
yeah. I know. I mean, I think I kind of agree with Chris Heredical's Chris on this. That really the thing to do is that they need to set the kind of the reset button back a bit to like 2017 or whatever when before this all happened,
Hmm.
and under the bylaws that existed then, and make sure all members then who were members then or whatever were invited to take part in the vote. You
Yeah,
kind of do need to, that's the only legitimate way you're going to solve this problem is you kind of got to hit the reset button.
exactly that. Yes, exactly that. And I mean, you have that. I think that's happened in by-elections in a number of
Mm.
places where there's been some discrepancy, and we can't rely on the vote. And the answer is okay. We'll have another vote.
Yeah.
And what Bill is saying is, yeah, we fucked up. We didn't let everyone vote who was entitled to. We gave votes to people who weren't entitled to vote. The difference between those numbers was more than enough to affect the outcome. But hey, let's just carry on regardless.
Mm. So let's get to this one: discussion and voting on motions. So we get this. We're actually getting to the actual motions here, and it's amendment of bylaws. And I'm
Yeah,
just
and
trying to remember which
it's
ones, because now
all
some of these were
massively
some of
dull.
yeah. I mean, really, with all of these, is there ones you really want me to focus in on this? Because
Well, of course, we can't miss the one about PDFs near the end.
I know that's a real. I know that's a real burning fucking
Well, I don't think you need to go into any of them because they are all very dull. But
yeah.
the point of this is, even in their current bylaws, you can't have an EGM unless there's an emergency. Would
Well,
um the bar to get over before you can call an EGM is that there must be a motion that can't wait to the next annual meeting. But if you
goes
look
to
through all this, I mean,
yeah.
none of it's urgent at all. And
I
the
don't see any of this that couldn't be put to a to an AGM. That
yeah,
I mean, essentially what they've put in here is essentially a sort of bogus, a kind of bogus AGM almost, really.
yes,
And
and exactly, and
they transferred. Look, it goes this transfer to AGM, transfer to AGM.
And
But
if you recall from right at the start, Jeff, I think one of the first slides was, why are we having an EGM?
yeah,
And the reason was because of this disclosure document, and people have said these disclosures mean the organization has lost democratic legitimacy, and we're going to have to do something about that. But there's no motions about that at all.
no.
Nobody voted on any of that.
I mean, there should be. I mean, this is what I mean, what this is. So let's just call this what the hell it is. This is them in their way, obviously try. This is them trying to make a statement of, we've dealt with the problems, nothing to see here. Move along, move along.
Exactly.
And it kind of does bother me that some of the members that are affiliated to this organization are either oblivious to it or just don't seem to give a shit.
Yeah, well, what I noticed was, even though there's a big list of affiliates in the earlier slide that you showed, there was very few doing the talking. So
Yeah,
there's really just a handful of people who, for one reason or another, are committed to the current board. So if I think of someone like Meredith Doig, who was there from, Preston will correct me if I get this wrong, I think it's the Rationalist Society of Australia. One of her colleagues is, from the Rationalist Society of Australia, is Stella Thomas, who's on the current board. And Meredith Doig is very supportive of the current board. And honestly, I think you could count in one hand the number of atheist groups who have that view, but they're
yeah,
all the most vocal people. So if you had sat through the meeting, what you would have seen is the same five groups talking over and over again, and barely anyone else contributing at all.
yeah. I mean, yeah. So gather. I mean, look, I get on with the guy, but I get on with the guy, but I gather Randolph was quite vocal during this, and I'm not being funny to the
Yep.
guy. His organization is really tiny, and it's really weird that he's getting so much. I mean, and I get on with the guy. He's always been really nice to me, but I'm not being funny. The Canadian Atheist is not a very big organization, you know.
So I can answer Mark Caesar's question. Yes, hi Mark. I don't think I know Mark, but he's obviously well informed. So in the faux AGM, which was 2018, were there any votes that occurred there that were beneficial for those who called the meeting, which were time specific, i.e., they would have been voted differently at a normal AGM? So the answer is yes, Mark. And we know this because several of the atheist groups had already made public their voting intention. In fact, both the Freedom from Religion Foundation and Atheist Ireland had an alternative proposal to the one that was voted at that faux AGM, as Mark describes it. They had told the board, we're going to organise another general meeting and we're going to put this to the members if you don't. And what our coup leaders on the current board did was they arranged their own meeting in advance in secret. So as the Freedom from Religion Foundation and Atheist Ireland were telling the board, here's our alternative proposal. We would like you to distribute this to all of the members to let them think about this. The response came back was, actually, we had a meeting last week and we have a completely different approach and you guys are out. So yes, the answer to Mark's question is yes, absolutely.
Yeah, well, I'm just typing something at the moment, so I think because this one's
Can
important.
you do jazz hands while you do that?
Yeah, well,
I'll tell everybody about my whiskey while you're doing that, Jeff, because it is really rather excellent, and it's very,
well,
very strong.
I will announce this just before I post this. I'm posting a poll now in the live chat.
Groovy.
And I want people to really think about this and answer this. It should be up there now, but it's is the poll up? But it says it's should atheists receive emails in a PDF format? Please vote now, because this is quite clearly the fucking burning issue that is going to save a lot of atheist lives. So I really want to know the answer to this.
This is why we had to get Christ involved. We need the big guns in to deal with issues like this.
Yeah. This was a motion that was put forward for this, and they transfer. This is even being transferred to an AGM. It's like,
That's right.
anyway, do you need any more evidence that AAI is a fucking clown car of an organisation? That this is a topic for voting on, like an AGM or EGM.
Yeah, I see Preston in the comments there. They're mostly small groups, even podcasts. The Free Thought Profit podcast, Seamus, you know Seamus, Jeff.
Yeah.
He was invited to become an affiliate member group of AAI. One of the affiliate member groups is a blog in Brazil. I'm sure he's a lovely guy. I'm sure it's a cool blog. He posts atheist stories and memes, but it's a blog in Brazil, and that's now an affiliate member group of AAI. So before the coup, before the a lot of groups were kicked out by the current lot, the affiliate member groups included people like the Freedom from Religion Foundation, which has a number of full-time lawyers on staff, which do nothing but take establishment clause cases in the States. It included people like the Council of Ex-Muslims of Britain, Mariam Namazi.
Yeah, that's a very serious organisation as well.
Absolutely.
I know them.
That's the kind of organization that was in there, but there's nobody like that anymore. It's all the Randolphs of the world.
Yeah, and also I get on with Randolph, but let's be honest, Canadian Atheist is pretty small. I mean, one of the few groups that I'm aware of that might have quite a few members is that Atheists for Liberty or whatever. Okay, which I'm not a big fan of their politics. That's just me. But they certainly got some big hitters. But I mean, I don't get this whole thing with Silverman puffing out his chest about like all the stuff that's gone on with AAI and then not doing fuck all. And he's got the chance.
Very disappointed by that because when I asked David Silverman about the behaviour of AAI and drew attention to his previous comments on similar behaviour by others, exactly as you're saying, Jeff, I won't try and quote him verbatim, but it was along the lines of, hey, I know it's not that I'm doing nothing. Just because you can't see me doing something doesn't mean I'm doing nothing. It was like I'm working on it in the background. And the first thing I took from that was, well, that's not saying there's no there. I mean, he's explicitly recognizing there's a problem that needs to be addressed. He's just saying, I'm trying to address this problem in the background, but not publicly. So at least that's something. But the atheists with guns. That's a joke.
That's about right. Atheists for guns would be a better name for them. Yeah.
Their website looks a bit like one of those Second Amendment websites. Maybe that's a bit unfair, but
I know. I mean, I know that. I know they're. Look, I don't have an issue with a group that's a bit more conservative than my own personal politics or whatever, that's trying to get, atheism normalized amongst the, group of right wing.
It's a laudable thing to do to go out. They go to CPAC and Turning Point.
I don't necessarily have an issue with what they're trying to do. It's
sure. So
it's not. It's I mean, it's kind of like one of those things. Look, the one thing that actually unites us as atheists is a position on whether we think a God exists or not. After
mhm.
that, it's kind of like, you know,
Yeah, totally understood. But atheists with guns were there at the EGM. They were there without guns, but their delegate to the EGM had absolutely nothing to say about anything that went on. They expressed no objection whatsoever to any aspect of what was reported.
and yeah, uh, um, and and just to be clear, Silverman was not the delegate to.
No, the delegate was Christine Shelska, who
Yeah,
is actually a previous board member of AAI. I believe she was the president when I was there. I think that's right. Um, if people are familiar with that name, Christine is a long-standing atheist activist and has been involved with many groups in many senior positions. Um, Not at all related or relevant to that. She happens to be recently married to David Silverman, but yeah, that's neither
yeah,
here nor there.
yeah. That's So I believe we got to. There was some stuff that come up, and we get to this any other business type thing. This is, I believe, there were some things that came up here.
Yes, so as I mentioned, the board had invited questions to their
Hmm.
disclosure document. Preston Jensen submitted some questions. Having invited those questions, the board refused to answer them. And in the any other business section, one member group proposed a motion that the board should answer Preston Jensen's questions. Another member group seconded that motion, and so Lawrence Krauss had a debate, and that's when the cry fest started because every single contribution was along the lines of the board is strongly opposed to the board having to answer questions about the behavior of the board. We had one director after another opposing the motion that they should have to answer Preston Jensen's questions. The questions, like the first question I believe was, can you please share the data used to construct the graph in your disclosure document? Uh, nope, they will not. And there were, I think, 20 something other questions after that, and they just won't answer them. I mean,
I this is the thing. Since I started like looking at this story, I mean, I'm gonna say this. This seems to be a recurring thing that I've seen with AAI that they might um they might occasionally put up a graph or something like that, or make some sort of assertion, but they don't seem there's never like any kind of receipt to back up their actual claim.
Yep.
Which is probably why I was started, which is very much when I started listening to you, why I was like, okay, I believe what John Hamill was saying because you were bringing receipts for shit, and these guys weren't,
Yeah.
and
Well,
so maybe I mean, maybe
let
it's
me give you a flavor.
yeah, but look, I'm just gonna say, if anyone from
Yep.
AAI watches this, okay, here's a little tip for you. If if you want to say John is speaking absolute shit or something, come with some fucking receipts to say why he's speaking shit. If you rather than maybe a little tip. I mean, but maybe the problem is they can't fucking provide them because they know you're not talking shit.
Well, firstly, Jeff, they are all definitely watching. Hi,
Mm.
Jason. Hi, Jason. They're all definitely watching.
I'll do it for Barry. Jason.
Barry will be very grateful for that. But in case anyone thinks I'm exaggerating about the cry fest that the board had, let me quote directly from one of the board's contributions. This is a contribution from the board on a debate about the motion on whether or not they should answer Preston Jensen's questions. So this is a direct quote. I have a wife. I'm a young man. I work. I have 2 jobs. Between 2 jobs, every day I give 3 hours to AAI, 21 hours a week. That is itself a job, and I don't get paid for it. No one else gets paid. This is an international organization. You guys running organizations, you know how much work it takes. We do it with passion. If you answer 100 questions, they will find a little something and they will make another question out of it. These people have become obsessed. For these people, I have a very clear message, actually. Go get a life, man. We have asylum cases all across the world. We have 18 or 19 blasphemy cases right now. Those people will die. 18 or 19 people, Jeff, will die if AAI has to answer these questions.
Well, this is the problem, and we just want atheists to die. That's our problem.
That's right.
This is why we do this.
As Chris says,
And
the leading cause of atheist death around the world is AAI having to answer questions.
yeah, transparency, the number one fucking killer of atheists around the globe.
Very funny. So they want you to think they spend all day putting on their cape and their underpants on top of their tights and flying around the world saving people's lives.
But that's what really bothers me though with them, and because I think somebody even brought up the fact that they do use this kind of emotional blackmail in what their approach. They're like, look, there are atheists dying around the world. Why are we focusing on It's I find that quite sickening. Actually, that's the one thing I always say, that what I find really sickening about AAI's board, that they use that as their defense.
Well, the implicit suggestion in that is that they care more about atheists in danger than anyone else. So, I mean, obviously, I'm not saying that I'm unsympathetic to people in that situation. I'm not saying those are not good causes. I have contributed to several of the AAI fundraisers for people under threat of blasphemy charges, where that is a non-trivial charge. I just think you can walk and chew gum at the same time. Like, what the people at AAI would have you believe is that they're like international rescue. Thunderbirds are go. Thunderbird 1 is going to, land at the door of some atheist in trouble and whisk them away to safety.
They think they're Thunderbird, but they're actually, in reality, they're the Muppets.
They're half a dozen Muppets with laptops who start GoFundMe campaigns, and as I say, that's fine. I have contributed to several of those campaigns, but lads, you can answer a question and create a GoFundMe. I mean, the two aren't mutually exclusive.
And this is the thing. I mean, this is why I started talking about this, John. After, obviously, you've been talking about this for a long time, way longer than I've been. But this is why I started talking about this, is because, we need something like an AAI. Now, I don't think we need it in its current format and the way it's currently. We need an organisation like this. And I think you're kind of left with two options here. It's either you try and start something new, or you try and save the thing that's already exists. Starting something new is really difficult. I mean, and I obviously, look, we don't even need to go into that other clown car organization that broke away a few years ago. But fuck off! We're not Atheist Alliance International. We're the International Alliance of Atheists. But
it's so embarrassing.
But it was the fact of the matter is this: you got this sort of. I don't want AAI to die. I want to see AAI restored to its former glory. It's not going to happen with these. It's not going to happen with these Muppets that are running it though. And unless unless there's a total reset button and they are gone and all
Quite right, and it's the structure as well. The structure of accountability. So I don't mean to keep harping back to when I was there, as if it was perfect. It definitely wasn't. But one thing you had to do was you had to turn up at an AGM at the end of every year. You had to account for what you've been doing that year. You had to propose what it is you wanted to do the following year, and you had to seek a mandate from the members. The members you were seeking a mandate for were people like Dan Barker at FFRF, people like Mariam Namazi at the Council of Ex-Muslims of Britain. So I'm sure you can imagine, Jeff, like I wasn't looking forward to that meeting. You were put under a microscope. People
yeah.
would ask you some difficult questions. The people asking you the questions are paying membership subscriptions into the bank account, and you're spending their money and you're accounting to them for what you've spent their money on. So the reason why the wheels came off the clown car is because they got rid of all of the democratic accountability. So like Bill Flavelle, as I say, he was never elected for years. He never had to be elected for years. Neither did he have to be accountable for anything that he did. In which case, he
Yeah.
did fuck all. He did
And
fuck all.
this is, by the way, again, when the stream's over, go back and watch my rant. Bill Flavelle is the main target of it. This is the guy. This is the guy who is who's constantly using the defence. Atheists are dying around the world, whilst he's trying to promote a flipping idea to sell a bit of paper that's actually going to get atheists killed around the fucking world.
Yep.
If you so.
Yep. Quite right.
So yeah. Okay. Is there anything else you need to add here, John?
I don't believe so.
We've gone through. We've gone. Like I said, this was not going to be the length. And fair play to Preston for sitting for 4.5 hours of this shit the other week.
Fair play to all of the Prestons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the thing. We're all Preston. It's
There's definitely a Spartacus feel to the whole thing, isn't there?
Yeah. It's I'm trying to think of the thing I think Razo Ghul says about like identities in the Batman films, but yeah, it's we're all Preston. I'm Preston, so's my wife.
Well, given that it seems we're drawn to a close, Jeff, can I give you a quick trailer for what's coming later in the week?
Oh, please do.
So I'll give you the title of the next article, which will be, let me try and get this right. The AAI EGM, the N word, and BDSM. Now,
No,
you might think that
that always
sounds like
sounds really
contrived
yeah.
clickbaity title. I promise you, it is not a contrived clickbaity title.
Okay. I should just say as well. In the description of this as well, in the description of this video, if you want to read some of the blog stories, follow John on Twitter. I have put that his link up there, his handle up there, and you want to follow some. Also catch John on the Free Thought Profit podcast. I've linked the channel there as well. So for all things AAI fuckery related, check out the Free Thought Profit show.
That is kind of you, Jeff. Appreciate that. And listen, it's been a lot of fun, man. Appreciate your time.
Yeah. No, thanks for coming on, mate. Thanks for coming on. And again, I'm going to keep an eye. I'll keep an eye on this story. I'll try and get you back at some point, John. Because we know we just know with the way that these people are going, that there's going to be more to come back on at some point.
Well, at least the BDSM, Jeff.
Yeah.
At least that.
Yeah. Well, and to think that when you were running it, when you were on the board, the website they went to porn sites. How embarrassing!
Oh, good grief.
Oh, yeah. And actually, I will say as well. Thank you for John for being on stream with me for like over an hour now, and not getting violent because apparently because you're of the Irish persuasion and have a bit more of a
That's right.
predisposition to violent behaviour.
It's the only kind of discourse we
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Once again, hi John Richards. Yeah. Okay, mate. Thanks for coming on,
Very
Barry.
good.
We're going to wrap this up now. Thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe. I do actually mean this seriously. Try and share this one because I feel like this is a story that more people in the atheist community need to be taking fucking note of. Is
Here,
what's
here.
got the fuckery that's gone on with this organisation, and I feel like it's flying under a lot of people's radars when this should be a much bigger story. So I
And
will
people
encourage
should
you to,
use the word fuckery a lot more, Jeff.
yeah,
Underused word.
absolutely, absolutely is. Once again, yeah, and but that is my takeaway from this. That this is something that I feel, if for whatever reason, is a big story that not enough people in the sort of online atheist circles or whatever, or atheist activist circles, are paying attention to, and they should be, especially with this organisation. Um,
Here,
and
here.
I really, encourage people to get the message out there. And I said, go and check out John on Twitter. John regularly gives updates on his blog about this. Check out Free Thought Profit. I'll weigh in here and there when I can. I know Hereticals Chris weighs in on this.
Yep.
Cheshire's done a couple of streams on AAI as well. So there's stuff out
Hopefully
there.
more to come too.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be. Okie doke. Thanks for once again. Thanks for coming on,
That was great,
John.
man. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks for everyone in the chat. And before we go, I've got to announce the winner of the poll here,
Oh,
and this is by a vote of 43% to 57. Atheists should not receive emails in a PDF format. So it's not decisive,
controversial.
It's
Controversial.
you do realise here. You do realise you may have just gotten some atheists killed with that.
Killed by a PDF.
Yeah, absolutely. Not in the chat, but they are in the description, Mark. So it is in the description, mate. I promise you. If it's not, it will be. But I know I typed it in there. So
I can give you my Twitter handle with a sob story if you like.
yeah.
You may know the only other real famous Hamill in the world is Mark Hamill, and his Twitter handle for many years was Mark Hamill himself, or it was just Hamill himself, I think.
Yeah.
And he always used to complain about it. He wanted to be Mark Hamill on Twitter and couldn't get it. Somebody else had it. And one day I changed my Twitter handle to J Hamill himself instead of just Hamill himself. And literally the next day, Mark Hamill changed his to just Mark Hamill and did this big thread about how grateful he was to Twitter. So
Yeah.
I had one triumphant day when I was nearly Mark Hamill on Twitter, but now I just have the embarrassing old Twitter handle.
Yeah. Well, once again, mate, thanks for coming on, John. Obviously, I believe Free Thought Profit, is that coming up because it's a bi-weekly show? Is that coming up this weekend?
Yeah, should be coming
Yeah.
up this weekend. Looking forward to that. As Martin and Barry would tell you, it's really difficult to plan for those because I mean, you start planning for the Wednesday, and AAI will do something
AAI
fucking
is
outrageous.
bound to do something. Yeah, and I will just say they do talk about other things than AAI on that show. Okay,
Now
so
and then, yes.
yeah, it's just that like I said, like I said earlier, no, Cheshire said it best. AAI is the literal definition of, but wait, there's more. Because yeah, it's an ever evolving story. Okay, cheers, John. I'll see you all guys later. Okay,
Thank you
salute.
kindly, Jeff. Take care, man.
Cheers.
Bye.
Right, bye.